So we're going to look at section A of paper 2.
Okay, so we're going to look at the first question, urban issues, answer all the questions of section A. Okay, so the first question, what is a megacity? Nice, easy one to start off with. Basically, it's a city with more than 10 million inhabitants. So it's the 10 million point, which is a thing you've got to make the point, over 10 million. Right, move on to the next one. What we've got here, we've got study figure 1, a map showing megacities in 2015 and then 2013. What you can see, there's more of them, and they tend to be a cluster in the sort of continents. You have to know your continents in like Asia, East Asia, more in Africa, there's more in South America. Is there more in South America? There's 3 there still.
They're growing, aren't they?
They're just growing in size rather than number.
No, they're growing. There is. Oh, beg your pardon. Yeah, there's a couple more in the northern.
So if you look here, so Northern Hemisphere 3, 2 there. It's London, isn't it? And there, America's the same. There's 2 more growing in South America. And then you've got a big bundle of more in this area here, in sort of like the Southeast Asia. Yeah, okay, like Manila and places like that, isn't it? Okay, so the question's asking us, once you've studied that, complete the following paragraph to describe the changes shown by the maps. 2015. So it's a fill in the missing gaps exercise. So the greatest increase in the number of megacities is in southern Asia. There are no megacities in half of the continents on 2030. The continent of Africa shows a 100% growth in number of megacities between 2015 and 2030. So if you look in Africa, you've got 1, 2, 3. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's doubled, isn't it? Okay. Simple. Turnover. Next question is talking about a lower income country where a pie chart, showing how a household in a lower income country spends its money. And you can see a lot of the money they spend is on food and transport, and that's what they're asking you to do. So question 2, so describe the pattern of spending in figure 2. Food is clearly the item on which the most is spent, all right, all that, look. Food accounts for over 60%, nearly 2/3 of household spending, so over 60%, look. 2 items, food and transport, those 2 there, are nearly 75% of the total spending. The second mark for further adding a comment, all other spending combined, excluding transport, is about 25%, so you might want to comment about that.
What I notice you're doing, Mr. White, is you're actually describing the pattern. You're not saying why it's like it is, you're saying what you can see.
Exactly, because that's what it's asked us to do, to describe, not why.
And you're quoting from the diagram, which is describing using the resource, which is an important skill as well.
Okay, so then we move to number 4. Number 4, we have a rubbish dump, okay, in the Payata slum in Manila. So the clue is in the word slum. Shantytown, it's an LIC, and so just like Rio, where you studied shanty towns, is the same, all the horrible issues that go with living by rubbish dump or on a rubbish dump, but they are a place which has opportunity, and that's the sort of curveball they've asked you to do. Benefits, good things. Opportunity means a good thing, a good point. Advantage, a good thing. So what could we say looking at that? They can collect the rubbish for sale. There will be jobs operating machinery and tractors, so there's work. It's like an economy going on there. They can salvage material that has been thrown away, so they can recycle, find loads of rubber and then turn them into flip-flops, for example, like car tyres. That's what happens. You've got to develop your ideas, so don't just say what you see, say why that's a good thing. So they can collect rubbish for sale, which provides informal employment suited to unskilled migrants in squatter settlements. So you're using all your words. So it's like an informal economy. It's not taxed, and they can use that money to look after their families. There will be jobs operating machinery, when skilled or formal jobs be rare in poorer countries. So these will just be people helping out, I expect. There's probably a whole subculture going on there. They can salvage material that's been thrown away, some of which may be able to be resold so money can be earned. Okay, that's good. So we move across again. Now we look at the next question. The next question, figure 3 and a case study. So figure 3 is that again. So use that and a case study of a city in an LIC to assess the challenge of providing services to the city's population.
And when it says use that figure 3, if you don't use it, you're unlikely to be able to access the 5th or 6th mark in the question.
You've got to read the question, haven't you?
You've got to read the question, but you've got to use the resource that the exam board have given you to score those top marks as well.
So a case study, so you could do Rio, the challenge of providing services to city's population. So we could talk about Rio and say one of the issues that you have with Rio is the fact that the population is growing all the time at a rapid rate because of rural to urban migration. As a result of that, any initiatives organised by the government are always going to be chasing their tail because they fix something, then more people arrive. Okay? So providing clean water, sanitation systems, like sewage disposal, health, education and waste disposal is always an issue because the volume of people that arrive and live there day to day is very difficult. So with reference to figure 3, you can also say that lots of the services, it's very informal, and so what they're doing is that they have to look after themselves, and with education being not that widespread, they're often young people are actually going and working on those sort of like waste disposal sort of areas, using the recycling to try and make a living. The question asks you to assess the challenge. The command word assess requires an appraisal of the scale of the task faced to provide physical infrastructural services when cities in places like Rio are growing so fast. For example, 600,000 per year is going into Lagos, which is in Nigeria, which you've done a bit on Nigeria, when the resources available to meet demand are limited in poorer countries. Also, poor existing provision of physical services, such as there is a challenging point for which to start. For example, Lagos, only 40% of waste is currently collected, and there's like a plastic issue in Rio, isn't there, and all the problems with that as well. There's also the problem of social services, healthcare. They don't have enough doctors, don't have enough hospitals. So there's a lack of vaccines and clean water, and so if you haven't got the services, then people suffer.
How many of those points that you just described would you go through for a 6 marker?
I would probably say 3 points, and then those 3 points are extended.
By assessing how important they are.
Yeah, say how important is education, lack of schools, lack of education, because of rising population growth.
Okay.
Something like that. Okay? Looking at the next one then, study figure 4, a topological map showing variation in life expectancy along 2 train lines in Birmingham. Calculate the range. The range is the difference between the highest and the lowest. Okay? And the answer is 9. Okay? Quite straightforward, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what is...
Do we have to show any working?
What's this try? Calculate the range. No,
answer.
just give the answer. But what it's trying to show you is that if you live in Four Oaks, you live to your 85 on average. If you live in Handsworth, you live to your 77. So I think I'd rather live in Four Oaks. Yeah, Acott's Green. That's where I taught. That's inner city, posher suburb areas, wealthier, more space. That's what it's trying to get towards. Better quality of life. People live longer. Okay, that's what it's trying to say. Next question, number 17, using figure 4. So it's that one again, which I've just referred to. Make sure you use the figure. Suggest why there are inequalities in health in urban areas. Answers should make use of figure 4, which may be inferred through reference to inner city, rural, urban fringe differences in health indicators. So if you're living on the outskirts, you're by the countryside, so you're breathing fresher air. Whereas if you're living in the inner city, you've got all those associated problems of living in the inner city. So you have car exhausts, factory fumes, and those factory fumes will go onto your lungs, and you could get breathing difficulties. On average, people don't live as long. Okay. Also, in crowded, more developed environments, like in the inner city, it's stressful. It's more stressful living and working there, and so that can be a killer as well. That's a couple of points. Development need to be through named places, so you need to talk about Moore Street.
Using the resource again, isn't it?
Talk about Snow Hill. Talk about the city centre, Erdington, and compare that with somewhere like Longbridge or Four Oaks and Sutton Coldfield. Those areas are in the suburbs, there's space, there's greenery, the job opportunities. People tend to commute elsewhere and drive. This is the old factory land here in the inner city, old like metal bashing and coal and iron and steel factories in the middle of Birmingham there, and so the environment isn't so pleasant basically, and the air quality isn't so pleasant either. Okay. Students may refer to deindustrialisation leading to inner city decline, which I've talked about before, how the old factories, the metal bashing industries have declined, and with that comes deprivation leading to poorer health in inner cities. For example, Aston, the most deprived area in the UK, 76, look, probably there's a lot more unhealthy behaviour going on there, so smoking and drinking. Crime rates are higher because the quality of life for them is high in employment. It's a deprived area, and within a deprived area you get higher life expectancy, a lower life expectancy. Urban sprawl and the growth of commuter settlements has gone hand in hand with this. Those on higher incomes are able to move out of the centre, accessing better housing, employment and healthcare.
So we're not just talking about the problems of the inner city, we're also talking about the benefits to the people that live on the edges.
Yeah, so you're talking about the problems in the inner city, and you're talking about the benefits of living in Four Oaks as opposed to somewhere like Aston. And there you've got better healthcare, better housing. We've got a health clinic there, and it's not so crowded. Okay. It would be possible for students to argue that redevelopment and regeneration programmes in inner city areas such as Aston Pride in Birmingham or Temple Quarter in Bristol, which you've referred to, has improved the health and the quality of life of people living in that area. Do you remember we compared two places in Bristol and we looked at why one area is better than the other? It refers to that, really. Have a look. Right, next question. Outline one way that international migration has led to a change in the character of a named UK city. Where you could say one mark for a basic statement, such as migration from other countries means some cities have areas dominated by the new population. People from other countries bring shops and building styles that are different from what was there before. To develop that idea, you could say migrants from other countries will often live near to each other for support, and so they'll become the majority population in the area, meaning you are likely to hear the migrant language spoken on the street as you are English. Like, for example, you have small group pockets of Indian people or Pakistani people in Birmingham, or you might have an area where there's a cluster of Chinese people, like in London, for example, or in Birmingham again in the central business district around there. So you get a cluster of what's called Chinatown. You have Chinese restaurants, and they celebrate the Chinese New Year. So it develops tolerance and multiculturalism in a society, and that's all positive.
That question as well, I suppose you could say something about the culture that those different ethnic minorities bring, and whether that's religion or food or language, something that a city might not have had before, but it does because of its new arrivals.
Yeah, so you have like some of the buildings are developed in a Chinese style, or you have Chinese supermarkets. You know, you have Polish supermarkets where the food is different, and that's exciting for a place in the city. Right, so
okay, the 9 marker.
So we've got the 9 marker with a spag next to it. Look, spelling, punctuation, and grammar. Now, to what extent has urban change created opportunities in a city you have studied? So, thinking of looking like it as what we've been studying. If you just look at this, our textbook, what we've studied, we studied Temple Quarter regeneration. Okay, we also studied why that was successful. Okay, we have that as a case study, and the question is asking us. But also, if you go back a couple of pages, you've got housing. That's the opportunities, new opportunities for people. You've got possibility of improvements in the environment as well. Urban greening, that's a positive. If you redevelop an area, improve it, you can get more open space and so on as well. So this question refers to Bristol, the economic opportunities. So if you bring in high-tech industries and urban animations and the Defence Procurement Agency, it provides employment for local people. It enables people to stay in the city if they go to university at Bristol and then stay there to work in those industries. Also, with new sort of activities like sport and leisure, it develops cultural opportunities as well. Okay, so I want to refer to the textbook and your notes because we have done that, and I want you to think, how does this work then? So the question is saying, to what extent has urban change created opportunities in a UK city of study? So it's quite open-ended. You can talk about, so if you think about it, you can put SEEP in the margin, okay, social, economic, environmental and political. Political, not so, they just make new developments and makes a city look good, I suppose. But social, if you improve sort of a housing area, for example, then that's only going to improve their quality of life. If you put new industries in Bristol, then it's going to provide more employment. And if you develop open spaces, that's only going to improve the quality of life of people as well in that area. So urban change, you ought to mention for the fact that there's regeneration, and you can talk about the Temple Quarter example in real depth. So if we just look at it in the booklet, we can see, you could talk about housing developments like British Harbourside. You could talk about that, which you've done. Very successful scheme in a very rundown area. People still live in the centre, and so that they can work in the centre as well. There's a big talk about the regeneration and why here. The regenerated the Temple Quarter improves the history and the culture of the place as well, and so that's important. And also, what you have here, Bristol Arena has been built, outdoor events, more employment for local people. Brownfield sites have been redeveloped, which is better than the greenfield sites. So that's a positive as well. So the environment develops. Okay.
This is a to what extent question, Mr. White. So is there anywhere where you can kind of comment where it's been less successful?
Yeah, so if we can, lots of positives. So
balance it if we're going to go for 9, aren't we?
Yeah, so say on the other hand, only certain people can afford to live in the new redeveloped areas. For example, in the new developments in the Temple Quarter, there's still areas, pockets of the city. Like, for example, do you remember we talked about Stoke Bishop and Fieldwood? Stoke Bishop was the nicer area, Fieldwood was the poor area. People that live there, socially deprived area, they'll be unable to move to places like, for example, the Harbourside case study and Temple Quarter. Okay?
Because it's still too expensive.
Because it's too expensive for
expensive city centre.
Yeah, I mean, we can look at some of the points that they're trying to make in exam questions. They're saying the command to what extent requires some evaluation and appraisal of the degree to which urban areas in the UK provide opportunities for people. Immigration means that the urban areas provide a cultural mix unlikely to be found outside cities, and the consequent opportunity for wider experiences such as a range of foods and festivals, such as the festivals you have in Bristol. Okay, opportunities for recreation and entertainment are greater in cities such as museums, multiplex cinemas, concert venues, and large sporting facilities, such as the redevelopments at Topological Quarter, Bristol Arena. Okay, cities will have wide opportunities for employment, notably in the service sector, such as in tourism. So go work at the Bristol Arena, for example. Retail and finance. So you go work in Cabot Circus, you know, and be employed working there. Here we have information on Cabot Circus, if you remember there, look, Cabot Circus, and so people can be employed in there, and it attracts employment, reduces crime. Some cities have also targeted jobs in the creative industries, a growth industry of the UK, by creating large spaces in former industrial areas. So do you remember we talked about Temple Quarter and they've redeveloped it for high-tech industry, where it used to be like old warehouses, but now it's high-tech industries and so on as well. So you have Glass Wharf, okay, you've got Temple Studios, the Engine Shed. Do you remember we talked about that? Brunel's Engine Shed. So 18 microelectronic, media and digital production companies, 44 companies have the facilities. So it employs like high-tech degree level students and so on as well. So that's only going to regenerate and create a multiplier effect within the city. Use the term multiplier effect. We've talked about it. Many cities are also increasing the range of environmental opportunities, urban greening, regenerating derelict wasteland. But as you said, Mr. Tyrell, earlier about the to what extent question, negative arguments may be presented through considering that opportunities may not be widely available, for example, to those who lack the skills or level of education for new industries. So if you live in that poor area, you want to get a job in the engine shed, you might not have the degree for that, and you might be socially deprived in that area, which is what we've said. You need a conclusion. In conclusion, loads of opportunities in this urban area, in Bristol, Temple Quarter. However, you need to just come up with a couple of negatives just to balance that argument.
And that's end of section A.
That's section A. All right.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Mr. White.
Lovely.